A snake has been removed from your life, not by accident, not by coincidence, but with divine precision, surgically, spiritually, and with heavenly authority. It didn't leave quietly, though it may have seemed silent. It didn't disappear without meaning. Heaven moved, and when heaven says, "Enough," no force on earth or in spirit can resist. This removal wasn't just an ending, it was a sacred severing. It was God's way of saying, "This far and no further." You may still be processing the name, the face, the feeling. And yes, it may hurt deeply. The realization may sting like salt in a wound. But don't mistake the sting for harm. It is the beginning of healing. Because truth, no matter how sharp, never comes to shame you. It comes to set you free. This person, once close to your heart, once trusted with your thoughts and dreams, was holding back your breakthrough. What you thought was a friend was actually a delay. What you believed was safe turned out to be spiritually hazardous. They were not just a distraction, they were draining you, siphoning your strength, clouding your clarity, interrupting the divine alignment God had prepared for you. But that assignment? It has now expired. Heaven doesn't need to announce its operations. God works in silence, but every move he makes is strategic. The removal happened quietly. There was no drama, no argument, no loud closing of doors. But don't confuse silence with absence. This was divine intervention cloaked in protection. God shielded your heart by removing the chaos before it could consume your momentum. My beloved child, if your spirit has been stirred lately, if your dreams have returned, if your sleep has deepened and your chest feels lighter, it is not your imagination. This is your confirmation. You felt the shift. You didn't need words. Your soul noticed the change before your mind could process it. Because in the spiritual realm, a great disconnection has occurred. Behind the scenes, heaven untangled you from something dark. A force that wore a face. A presence that wore a smile. Someone who felt familiar, but who had become spiritually dangerous. They were too close. They stood in your circle. They laughed with you. They shared your meals. They heard your prayers. But beneath all that familiarity, something was wrong. Behind their warmth was poison. Behind their encouragement was hidden resentment. And you kept asking yourself, why do I feel stuck? Why can't I move forward? Why does the blessing feel so close, but just out of reach? Now you know. The joy didn't last because it was being siphoned. The blessings felt delayed because interference stood beside you, not behind you. Your clarity fogged because a counterfeit spirit was casting shadows where light belonged. Archangel Michael speaks clearly now. This person moved in shadows. Their kindness was a mask. Their presence was not companionship. It was a spiritual distraction. They had learned your language. They knew how to echo your emotions. They mirrored your words, imitated your light, and pretended to love what they secretly envied. They walked beside you, not as a partner in destiny, but as a monitor of your mission. They heard your dreams not to protect them, but to track them. And instead of covering you in love, they cloaked you in hidden jealousy. But your spirit knew. You felt it. The room felt heavier when they walked in. Your shoulders tensed without cause. Their compliments didn't feel genuine, even when their tones sounded sweet. Your spirit whispered, "Something's off." That whisper? That unease? That silent alarm in your soul? That was discernment. That was God speaking through your intuition. But you faithful, kind, hopeful, you silenced the warning. You told yourself you were overthinking. You rationalized the red flags. You prayed for change. You held on, because your heart always chooses love first. But snakes don't change. They shed skin. They evolve in disguise. They study your light not to honor it, but to mimic it long enough to dull its glow. And when heaven saw you were strong enough to survive the truth, it acted. That's when the extraction began. not messy, not noisy, but absolute. And now they are gone, removed not by your words, not by your rage, but by the unseen hand of your defender. You may hear their name again soon, maybe in passing, maybe in conversation. It may feel casual, but your soul will recognize it. A chill, a pause, a whisper of knowing. That will be your confirmation. The mask is fallen. The shadow has been exposed. And it wasn't by revenge. It wasn't by confrontation. It was divine intervention. Because when God removes someone from your life, it isn't rejection, it's redirection. And when He exposes what was hidden, it isn't for drama, it's for your destiny. Their removal wasn't punishment, it was preservation. It wasn't cruelty, it was mercy. It wasn't rejection. It was a redirection, a divine intervention made not out of anger, but out of deep love for you and for the future God designed you to walk in. God didn't remove them to break your heart. He removed them to protect your soul, to preserve the calling, the clarity, the confidence that was being subtly and consistently eroded by their presence. What you thought was loyalty was, in fact, delay. What felt like connection was actually control. And now that they're gone, your light is coming back. It's not flickering timidly. It's returning with strength, with boldness, with authority. The glow you thought you lost is rising again, and it's more radiant than ever. You'll feel it in your body first. Your shoulders relaxing in ways you didn't realize they were tense. Your breath deepening. Your chest expanding. The constant pressure, the tightness around your heart, lifting. That, dear soul, is spiritual relief made physical. Then you'll feel it in your mind. The racing thoughts slowing, the overthinking ceasing, peace settling like dew in the early morning. The kind of peace that doesn't make sense because it's not of this world. And then you'll feel it in your heart. That quiet, steady assurance, that sacred knowing that something heavy has been lifted, something dark has departed, and you are finally free to feel like you again. For so long, they played the role so convincingly that you began to question your own discernment. You second-guessed your intuition. You overrode what your spirit knew in favor of what your eyes wanted to believe. You silenced your own wisdom to preserve a relationship that was draining your very essence. You saw the red flags, but called them challenges. You felt the misalignment, but gave them grace. You told yourself they just needed healing, space, time. But what they truly needed was access. Access to your kindness. Access to your dreams. Access to your light, so they could draw from it, dim it, and manipulate it. They were never applauding you. They were observing. They weren't inspired. They were intimidated. They didn't celebrate your victories. They resented them. And every time you succeeded, it exposed their stagnation, and they hated you for it in secret. What looked like support was sabotage. What looked like love was leverage. They smiled while they cursed. They nodded while they competed. They blessed you in public, but slandered you in private. And still, you gave them grace. But that grace was never wasted. It simply served as evidence of your purity. And heaven saw it. And heaven moved. Because that presence wasn't harmless, it was spiritual interference. It was a fog placed over your vision, a weight around your progress. And now, that fog is lifting. The knots are loosening. The confusion is clearing. Archangel Michael speaks once again. They were feeding off your light. Their jealousy wrapped cords around your calling. But now heaven has cut the cords. Your prayers, delayed before, are now landing swiftly. Your peace, once fragile, is now rooted. Your sleep, once disturbed, is now deep and restorative. Your creativity, once stifled, is flowing like a river. This isn't just healing, it's divine cleansing. The heavens have signed off on this separation, and what once weighed you down is now serving as the very platform for your rise. Now, hear this and hear it clearly. Your restoration will not be subtle. It will not be hidden behind closed doors. It will be visible. It will be powerful. The same God who quietly removed the burden is now preparing to loudly bless you in the presence of those who once doubted you. You're about to start attracting what was once repelled. Resources you struggled to find will now find you. Connections that seemed delayed will start flowing effortlessly. Revelation you prayed for will begin to pour like rain. The divine floodgates have opened. Why? Because the obstruction, the spiritual block, has been cleared. This is not merely emotional relief. It's spiritual propulsion. What was tied is being loosed. What was locked is being opened. What was clouded is becoming clear. But take this as your divine instruction. There will be days when the old energy tries to return. It might come through a message, a memory, a moment of weakness. A voice that used to soothe you may try to re-enter. Do not open that door. Regret is not repentance. Guilt is not growth. Apologies are not always transformation. They may miss the benefits, but not your being. They may mourn the access, but not the relationship. Do not confuse their discomfort with remorse. Do not mistake their silence for change. Your stillness is not cruelty, it is your covering. And finally, Archangel Michael whispers with authority. Leave the door closed. Let the snake slither away alone. Because what God removed was not an accident. It was a necessary act to protect your next season. And what's coming is too holy to share with hands that once cursed what you carried. Because now, your territory is sacred. It is not for public access. It is not for compromise. The ground you walk on has been consecrated by your pain, your prayers, and your perseverance. Your space is no longer available for confusion, chaos, or counterfeit intentions. Your peace, the hard-won stillness you carry, is now expensive. It costs too many sleepless nights, too many moments of internal wrestling, too many silent tears and hidden prayers. So no, it cannot be given away cheaply. Your calling is no longer whispering, it is shouting. It speaks in your steps, in your posture, in your discernment. It's too loud to be ignored, too radiant to be dimmed. And it cannot be shared with people who carry jealousy in one hand and flattery in the other. What lies ahead is weighty, it's holy, and it requires purity in your atmosphere. You are entering a season of speed, of swift fulfillment and divine execution, where things that took years will now take days, where prayers you shelved will suddenly manifest, where obstacles that once towered over you will crumble like dry leaves. But this could not happen while the wrong energy stood too close. The acceleration required a clearing, and now that it has taken place, momentum is rising. Your circle is healing. What was once infected with hidden resentment is now filling with light and laughter. Your environment is being recalibrated, spiritually disinfected. What once drained you will now inspire you. What once confused you will now clarify your vision. Because heaven never removes without preparing something greater. Every subtraction was followed by a divine intention. This is your turning point. This is not a repeat of the past. It's a restart. Where things once stalled, they now surge. Where you once hesitated, you now move with boldness. This is where everything accelerates. Even your laughter will sound new. Not like forced relief, but genuine joy rising from a healed spirit. Your voice will carry depth. Your words will no longer orbit old wounds. And your body, yes, even your body, will release the tension it silently carried for so long. This is restoration in motion. This is not just freedom, it's freedom with rhythm, with resonance, with forward pull. They once had access to everything. Your plans, your thoughts, your vulnerabilities, but not anymore. That door is closed. That chapter is sealed. Because that connection was never truly love, it was leverage. Not alignment, but strategy. Not intimacy, but intrusion. But heaven severed it, not with force, but with finality. What felt like a friendship was actually a foothold of distraction. Now your home is quieter, not empty, but whole, not silent, but still. This quiet isn't emptiness, it's divine restoration. It's the sound of peace returning to its rightful place. And in that peace, something new begins to bloom. Something beautiful, something holy. You'll stop second-guessing yourself. You'll stop rehearsing what you should have said. You'll stop shrinking your soul to keep others comfortable. You'll stop apologizing for your light, because your soul is standing tall again. You walk taller. You breathe deeper. You no longer bend to be accepted. You rise to be respected. You no longer silence your joy to appease someone else's insecurity. You no longer dim your flame so others won't feel small. You've stopped making yourself small for people who were never meant to walk in your light. Because the imposter is gone. And what comes next will carry real blessing, real alignment, real love. Now, you will attract people who see your peace and match it, who feel your presence and honor it, who clap with clean hands and pure motives, who love you from overflow, not from need or competition. This is spiritual elevation. And though the snake was clever, heaven was wiser. That removal, it wasn't reaction, it was preparation. It was marked in eternity before you were even aware of the threat. You just had to awaken fully. And now, you are wide awake. Eyes sharpened, spirit attuned, heart guarded in grace. Their name may return. You might hear it in a conversation, a story, or even in a dream. But this time it will not hurt, it will confirm. You'll feel it instantly. The wound has closed. The lie is dismantled. The story is complete. No more flinching at the sound of old names. No more aching at the echo of past moments. Instead, power, wholeness, peace, because heaven finishes what it starts. What you thought was a bond was a burden. What felt like love was limitation. What seemed like partnership was actually pause. But now, that pause is over, and the same thing that once held you back has become your launching point. You are rising, not with vengeance in your heart, but with vision in your spirit. You rise not to prove something to anyone, but to walk in what was always yours. This is not about payback. This is about purpose. You are being realigned with heaven's timeline, repositioned by divine hands, restored into full authority. And from this sacred moment forward, nothing that belongs to you will be delayed again. Not one more blessing will be intercepted. Not one more breakthrough will be postponed. Not one more divine connection will be blocked. Every opportunity ordained for you will now recognize you. Every door designed for you will begin to respond to your presence. Heaven has sounded the release, and you are stepping into accelerated grace. Yes, they delayed you. For weeks, for months, for years. But every moment they stole is now returning to you multiplied, wrapped in favor, delivered with divine speed. You will watch it happen. Watch how fast the doors swing wide. Watch how effortlessly things begin to fall into place. Watch how joy returns, not as a fragile gift, but as your birthright. And this time, it won't be tied to guilt. This time, you won't apologize for smiling or second-guess your glow. This is not just freedom. This is favor in full flow. This is not survival. This is supernatural restoration. Most of all, let it be known. This is proof that the God who starts a work in you always finishes it. There are no loose ends in heaven, only completed promises. So let this serve as your divine reminder. The snake's departure was not the end of something precious. It was the beginning of something protected. What you thought was loss was actually liberation. You didn't lose loyalty, you lost interference. You didn't lose love, you lost manipulation. And that, child of God, is not a tragedy, it's a divine upgrade. You are no longer the person you were before this unveiling. You are wiser, sharpened by discernment. You are stronger, fortified by fire. You are softer in spirit, but bolder in truth. You are more aware of what peace really feels like and what it costs. From now on, anything that contradicts that peace will feel like poison, and you won't need proof to walk away. Your spirit will sense it instantly. Those who walk in shadows will reveal themselves without you even looking. You won't chase clarity anymore. Clarity will find you. You won't beg to be seen. You'll stand in alignment, knowing that your presence is not a request, it's a response to God's calling. Yes, the name may still echo in your memory, but it holds no emotional weight now, because heaven already issued the verdict, and the ruling was in your favor. You were being protected, even when you were unaware. Now, you walk with eyes wide open, heart shielded in truth, and feet grounded in holy fire. You are not unarmed. You are anointed. You are not vulnerable. You are equipped. You are not confused. You are commissioned. Everything they tried to suppress, your voice, your creativity, your anointing, is about to surge. Your vision will expand. Your calling will become unavoidable. Your atmosphere will start producing fruit you thought you'd lost forever. This is what rising feels like. It doesn't feel loud, it feels solid. It doesn't feel frantic, it feels fortified. This is what true protection looks like. They mistook your gentleness for weakness. They mistook your silence for submission. They saw your patience as powerlessness, but they never saw the fire God placed in your bones. Now, that fire burns visibly. Now, it warms every space you step into. Now, it consumes every lie spoken over you. Now, it ignites purpose in every step you take. You are not walking in bitterness. You are walking in brilliance. What tried to break you built you. The betrayal didn't destroy you. It gave you backbone. The removal didn't weaken you. It resurrected your identity. What they tried to bury has come back to life. And it's blooming now, not in private, but in plain sight, in front of the very eyes that hoped to keep you hidden. You are ready, fully, unapologetically, anointed by adversity, focused by the fire, softened by surrender, strengthened by survival. This is not just recovery, this is resurrection. You are entering rooms now with divine presence. You don't ask permission anymore. You carry heaven's backing. You no longer question whether you belong. You walk as one sent. You don't shrink to keep others comfortable. You don't mute your message for fear of judgment. You carry the light of God in your eyes and the fire of calling in your voice. This is your new era. This is your divine return. And no snake, no shadow, no delay will ever hold you back again. The snake was clever, but heaven was precise. The delay was real, but the recovery will be supernatural. What they tried to curse will now be clothed in glory. You'll rise in front of the very ones who doubted you, but not for revenge, for revelation. They will see what heaven always saw. This is your divine confirmation. You were never the problem. The problem was who had access to you. But now, that access is revoked forever. You didn't lose a friend. You lost a blockage. And heaven is now rewarding your endurance with acceleration, clarity, and joy. What's ahead is too sacred to share with counterfeit spirits. What's ahead is too powerful to be delayed by false loyalty. This is your new beginning. Breathe it in, walk in it, and never look back. Amen.